Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first Cabinet meeting of the new session of this Council. I'd just like to welcome members that are also here to observe or maybe contribute, Councillors Bates, Zeidler, Councillor Kenny and Councillor Eves. Before we start the meeting, I will ask my Vice Chairman to read the safety announcement.
Thank you, Chairman. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Follow the green signs to the assembly point, large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after other people have left. Do not return to the building until told it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the Council site is a no-smoking area. Filming from the public gallery is permitted, but members must please refrain from filming within the Council chamber so as not to distract the meeting. Mobile phones must be switched to silent. Thank you.
Thank you, which then takes us to the first item on the agenda, which is to receive declaration of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. If you could indicate by pushing a button if you have one to declare. Councillor Bennett and then Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. I think it's worth mentioning that I have family members who are members of Burgess Hill Hockey Club and Hurstpierpoint Colts Football Club.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I should declare an interest as a member of Worth Parish Council in respect of item 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. I think you're referring to the next meeting, which will be the Cabinet Grants Panel, which follows on from this at 2. But we'll come back to that, so thank you. Thank you. So that then leads to item 3 on the agenda, which is the minutes of the previous meeting of the 13th of March 2023. We, of course, were not members of the Cabinet at that time, so I'll hand over to Kevin Toogood to take us through those minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. So just to confirm, because this is obviously the first sitting of a new Cabinet, I've reviewed the minutes of the last meeting of the previous Cabinet, and I can confirm that they are an accurate record of the meeting that took place on the 13th of March 2023. So hopefully that will assist you in allowing these minutes into the formal records of the Council.
Thank you, Kevin. If members could just affirm the minutes without pressing their buttons, but just say agreed, that will be fine. Agreed. Thank you. Which then leads us to agenda item 4, to consider any items that the leader agrees to take as urgent business, and I have none, which then brings us on to agenda item 5. This agenda item is going to be introduced by Simon Hughes, but beforehand, and as some members will be aware, and members of the public who may not be, we've introduced a new procedure whereby leaders of the respective opposition parties and Councillor Kenny and Councillor Chapman, who, if they are here, can make a contribution to the agenda item. They do not participate in our discussion on it, but obviously anything they say we will try to address in our debate, either as members or as an officer, and we will consider your comments respectfully and carefully. So I don't know whether Councillor Annes or Councillor Kenny wish to contribute. Councillor Eves.
Thank you so much, Councillor Eggleston. I'd like to thank everybody in the Cabinet for the opportunity to speak here, which, as you know, is an innovative departure, which is very welcome. Just one point on paragraph 43C of the Centre for Outdoor Sports, the mammal crossing, the Green Group would like very much to welcome the whole idea of a mammal crossing. There are so many roads now being built around Burgess Hill. There's the A2300 in place. The Eastern Bridge, during its construction, has cut off all sorts of corridors for mammals. So we very much welcome this, and we hope it will not become an expendable thrill, because something in the wording of this paragraph possibly implies that it might not happen. So I just commend that to you and hope that it does indeed occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
I'd like to echo Anne's statement and thank you for the opportunity to attend these meetings. It's a great innovation. And to welcome the facilities that will be coming forward, and to congratulate the council leadership for having secured the land grant. I think that's really excellent. Also like to thank Robert and Simon for answering my question. Make one point about the answer. It would be, I think, might be helpful in future reports if the statistics, like the amount of costs that were involved in using the framework, were stated in the report. It might have saved me asking the question in the first place if I'd realised that it was 0.22% as opposed to a larger sum. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So if we could now go to Simon Hughes to introduce the report, and I don't know if you have an opportunity within your report to respond to Councillor Eaves and Councillor Kenny, that'd be useful. Thank you.
Thank you. As Cabinet will be aware, the Brookley development will deliver over 80 hectares of new green space, and 9 hectares of this has been specifically allocated to the new Centre for Outdoor Sports. The aim of the centre is to provide publicly available high-quality sports facilities, and I think the paper sets that out clearly, the mix of those sports facilities. That's going to mitigate the impact of Brookley and will form a key part of the Council's playing pitch strategy. And that strategy identifies key priorities and areas for investment across the whole district for both the Council's land, but also the land of third parties, for example, schools. The purpose of the report is set out in paragraph 1 and is principally to recommend to Cabinet to approve the procurement of delivery partner for the centre via the UK Leisure Framework. And as you'll be aware, councils frequently use frameworks as they are a means of accessing the requisite skills that we require from bodies that understand the market and understand how to manage and deliver specialist services that this development will need. In future reports, we can include the relative cost of those frameworks. Typically, because they are public service, they are very low cost, and that's principally why we use them as well. So the recommendation is to approve the procurement of delivery partner via the UK Leisure Framework, and that will also enable us to deliver to the challenging timescales for the proposed delivery, and that's set out in paragraph 18, and that sees a start on site in the first quarter of 2014. And finally, the exempt annex sets out the budget for the programme and is commercially sensitive information, and that's why it is an exempt item. Many thanks.
Thank you. As this falls under your portfolio, Councillor Hobbs, may I go to you first?
Thank you, Chair. The Centre for Outdoor Sports is very much driven, as Simon mentioned, by the identified need in the playing pitch study of 2018 and adopted by the Council in 2019. But this is only part of a full mix of projects that will assist the issues of a growing community in Mid-Sussex. For example, in the Brookley development, we see at Beadlands Academy, which is opening in 2025, 7 outdoor pitches and an athletics track, which will all be available for public use and hire. And within Brookley itself, 2 multi-use games areas will be brought forward over the development. Specifically for the benefit of the rest of Mid-Sussex, The next quarter will see a wider parks investment strategy come forward to the Cabinet, which will talk about how we can look to make further investments in areas outside of Burgess Hill specifically. So why now? Specifically, it complies with the triggers in the Northern Arc Master Plan, which sees this development launching, the Centre for Outdoor Sports launching in 2024. As we are very aware, costs are going up all the time, and at this moment, the money has been identified and released by developers to allow us to move to the next stage, which is, of course, the approvement of a procurement partner. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Cabinet members before I speak? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to see this come forward. The provision of sport is obviously a very key thing in the area. I think that some of the things that we see in terms of the issues with public health are of great concern. And the more that we can do to provide such facilities, that we should be doing that. I will be also interested to see when the plan arrives to deliver the strategy that's been developed for the district as a whole, in particular in the northern area where there's a number of requirements being identified, particularly for the artificial football pitches. One of the things in my reading up on this that I identified was that there are concerns among some residents where the current generation of artificial football pitches, the 3G, the rubber crumb which is used to support the nylon fibres, there is the danger of there being an environmental health issue with them, although I understand from the Sports England publications that nothing yet has been absolutely determined. And I would like to hear perhaps a little bit about whether or not the alternatives are expected to be available within the time frame that this will be brought forward. And it's very pleasing that the facilities of many schools which are being enhanced by the County Council are becoming available for more public use. I noted from the last council meeting that the Assistant Chief Executive gave a good briefing on what was available at the Beadland School, but fell just short of the times that availability to the public would be. And I wonder if we could have that information, maybe not in the meeting, but maybe subsequently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Bennett, you had indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. I seem to have unindicated inadvertently. For me, I'm very pleased to see these new facilities for team sports coming forward. Speaking as somebody who spent a couple of seasons trying to arrange pitches for a team of small boys who played football and discovering there was no availability, and many of the grass pitches in the area were totally unplayable for about 4 or 5 months of the year, there is a clear need for this. So this will be a real boost to local clubs, particularly in the south of district, and also for travelling teams. And I'm also very much looking forward to seeing that broader picture come forward as part of the Parks Master Plan. So I'm looking forward to that too. And what makes this particularly sort of welcome and the time that this is going to be delivered in is that we all know that capital projects are under considerable inflationary pressure at the moment, and that makes the importance of bringing this forward and delivering this as soon as we're able to particularly pertinent. To Councillor Eve's point about the mammal crossings, I'm hoping that she understands that nature recovery is a priority of the new administration and something we will push on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Anne-Marie Cook.
Yes, hello. I just wanted to say that I welcome the incorporation of extensive open space in the Brookley development and also the encouragement of participation in sport. And I would also like to welcome Councillor Eve's point about the mammals. It's a important consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So that leaves me, before I do, if I could go back to Simon Hughes, just to comment on the point that Councillor Kenny and Councillor Reeves made, and also Councillor Gibson on the 3G. If you have the answers now, great. Otherwise, we can undertake to provide them.
Thank you. Yes, I do. As part of our pre-application, we've been meeting with the ecology officer, so there is a schedule of ecology surveys that will be required ahead of any planning permission, as is usual. So that will give us information about what is required for the development of the site. On Councillor Gibson's question around rubber crumb as infill, you'll be pleased to know that my colleague Rob has a meeting this week to look at organic infill, and that includes things like olive stones, cork, and so on. So if at all possible, we'll be looking at can we get ahead of that, if it's financially viable and if it meets the requirements. And on the question around procurement and frameworks, as I said earlier, we can include information on the likely percentage cost of working through any framework or any delivery partner. And as is usual with frameworks, that's partly the reason why we use them, because they're very cost effective in that respect.
Thank you very much. Just about everything's been said, so I'll try not to be too long, but just to, from my perspective, to context that I was involved back in 2010 when Burgess Hill was consulting on the Northern Arc generally, and the Centre for Sport was very much part of that consultation process, that the trade-off between taking housing was getting some investment in crucial infrastructure, including leisure. It's very good, though, to note that, and I think there is a perception that the Centre for Sport is the be-all and end-all of provision in the district, and it isn't. It's part of a very large jigsaw, but a very important part of the jigsaw of trying to address playing pitch deficit across the district, and the district has some considerable pressures in housing growth, particularly in the south of the district, and securing 9 hectares of land to address part of that need is important, but it never stops there. And we know as a district council that we've got to address the requirement for other sports as well, hockey, netball, basketball, the growth in paddleball and pickleball and so on. And so the 2018 playing pitch strategy really underpins a lot of the decisions that we're going to make this afternoon. And, I'm very supportive of this. I'm really glad that we are now getting to the next stage. We can't leave it. We know what the inflationary pressures are like, and moving forward as quickly as we can to deliver this for the community of Mid Sussex is very important. The next agenda, I'm going to move on to agenda item 6, which is whether we exclude the press and the public for the meeting. Members of the Cabinet will have had disclosed to them the commercial elements of this proposal, and all of our discussions leading up to this have been done in the context of we know what the costs are and what the delivery programme is. So my proposal is that we proceed on the basis of the knowledge that we have, and that on agenda item 6 we don't go into an exempt session, but we stay in an open session and we can move on to the recommendations. I don't know if there's a specific form of wording that I need to use, or if that's quite clear. And we just say yes. Do we do that on our buttons?
You can either vote by general affirmation or vote using your buttons.
Shall we vote by general affirmation that we stay in open session?
Agreed.
Agreed. Good. So we can now move on, I believe, to the recommendations. and as set out in the agenda. And on this occasion, we will use our buttons. So if members approve the recommendation, then vote yes accordingly.
Thank you, Chairman. That is a unanimous vote in favour of the proposal.
That being so, and the motion having passed, that's the last item on this agenda, and I can now formally draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much for your attendance and helping me getting through the first one. Thank you.